our mission is building a strong nation, one son at a time. And when I was coming across with that, and I love my country. I love my country very much. I love Helen, and I tell people, like, when I see Helen, I love Helen, and I will do. And when I see our women, I see Helen as our women are embodied. Each and every one of them have a little piece of Helen. So you see in Helen, and St. Lucia is the only country that's named after a woman. It's very special. Absolutely. So we see in our little Helens, the embodiment of our little Helens, our women. But how do we provide, protect? How do we take care of Helen as a man who take care of his wife? Helen is our wife at this point. Absolutely. And how do we take care of Helen? Right. How do we put things in place? Because even in Helen's anthem, Helen said, "God our sons from war and harmony." Helen asked us to do that. Right. She, as the mother, said, "God her sons." Right. From war and harmony, because probably Helen knew something that we didn't know. It's in her national anthem, in her song. Yes. She said, "God her sons from war and harmony." So Ideas for Boys and Men will take on what Helen asked of us. Right. To guard her sons. We're not doing it for us. Right. To guard her sons from war and harm. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Ideation, and with me today we have It's Objective, Michael Anthony. We have been on the podcast, well, he has been on the podcast before. We had a very good conversation when we started somewhat last year, and I invited him to go on the adventure, the journey, and he's been part of that journey, and we're just circling back to express our experiences and to see that it's not only online. We're really trying to make things happen out there in the real world, and there are a lot of things that we have been doing, and we are going to have a conversation about what is the problem that we see on the ground, how we are looking to address that problem. And today I'm happy that we are here in person, and here you go, Mr. Anthony. How's everything?
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for handing over to me. Everything is going quite well. I mean, again, thanks for inviting me back onto Ideation. All my It's Objective followers who already know I'm back here to manifest our goals and our dreams. And of course, it speaks heavily to the situation that's currently going on in St. Lucia, myself and Kevin, what we embark on from the time that we met. And I could tell you guys, starting the conversation with Kevin and where we're at right now, there has been exponential growth, I would say, in my personal life and also in the life of the diaspora and the people that we're trying to take effect on. And that really enlightens or broadens my sphere of thought and level of effectiveness in the world that it stands. I mean, we can clearly see that there's a problem going on, especially where young men are concerned. And it is so troubling, Kevin. You find that right now we have 23 homicides already in St. Lucia to date, and we're not even done with April as yet. And prior to this conversation, we'd have had a conversation about some statistics where, the lives of young men are considered, and it seems that every single year for the past 4 to 5 years, we've lost about 60 boys, 60 men, boys or men, however you may call it. But that's clearly an evident issue that we're currently dealing with. And the question is, what is the origin of this, Kevin? How have we found ourselves? And I mean, this is clearly going on, Kevin, on a global level. As you can see, the troubles are not just ours, but you have to be able to fix your home before you fix someone else's home, right? And how do we tackle that problem? Let's talk about the origin of the problem.
Yeah, but your experience, let's just look at from the last time we met. we have been doing programs with Ideas for Boys and Men. We had the financial program, the financial event. We also 2026 we started with the Boys Trade. Well, we partnered with Men of Faith Ministries that brought us on with the Bodley Correctional Facility program, the execution program, and you visited the prisons as well. What was your experience when you visited the prisons? What did you experience? Knowing the mission, which we will discuss later,
Right.
our mission, what we're trying to accomplish with Ideas for Boys and Men in relation with ideation and its objective. But what was your personal experience? Because the reason why I'm asking that, we can have all the data. We can sit down in our AC offices. We can sit down in the comfort of our own home. We do a quick research in Google or wherever, and we can see the data. But when you walk into the facility and you can see the face of the young men, what was your experience like? Talk to me about
I'll be
that.
honest with you, it was surreal because I have visited the prison already, but not in that capacity. So I've been the person behind the visitors blind, looking at my family member or friend, right, on a visitation, and never have I been in the back, so to speak. And it's just like it's just like the con of selling an island as a tourism product. You find that you see a lot of nice beaches, nice infrastructure, but then when you go in the back now, when you go into the rural areas, the creeks and crevices of the truth, you find that there's a lot to deal with. And it was a surreal experience, Kevin, having to be in direct contact with these inmates, these incarcerated men, and seeing them not in the light of just knowing that they're there, but having to have an actual interaction with them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that that interaction spoke volumes to me because I felt like I was one of these guys. I felt like I'm talking to my brother, like I'm talking to my friend, I'm talking to myself. And I come from a place, Kevin, I actually got expelled from school. So I was maybe this is close to maybe being a product of society in that light, and it's when I hear these guys speak, one of them, we may not be able to mention his name, but we spoke about him together, and we deemed that this man wasn't even supposed to be there. So you find that there's a lot of intellectual value in the prison. There's a lot of emotional value in the prison, but with these guys being stereotyped and having made mistakes that they couldn't come out of or they couldn't reverse, it brings us to a point where we've realized that the institutions in St. Lucia, or maybe that of the world, particularly where men are concerned, they are not there to necessarily rehabilitate men or string men along the right line. They're just there to either give you a slap on the wrist or slap your wrist into some cups if you put yourself in a position of problem, and that's what it is. And that's what I got from the prison. I feel like beyond the prison, we need some kind of facility. We need some kind of coalition of men or men's groups, men that have that conscious thought process that men need help to, just like the women will have the crisis center, the children will have, the human resources, the human services. There is no real institution, Kevin, for men. And we're talking about men in development. We're not talking about men who have done things.
Because that's one of the things I want to push. I want to talk to you on. Because when my interaction the first time I went there, I was like, whoa, that's real. That's a real situation. Those are real human beings, and you're looking at the young individuals, and the resource of any country is the best resource of any country is the human resource. Sometimes some have oil, some have this, some have that, but us, one of our greatest resources are the human resource, and it looks like a good portion of our human resource is dying and in prison. And my experience when I went there, I was like, that's real. I look at a young man, in my mind, like, bro, what are you doing there? Like you said, and I keep thinking, like, what had to happen? You grew up as a little boy, your mother and your father in a home, you go to primary school, infant school, primary school, secondary school. You probably don't finish secondary school as the data would have it. You might not be even doing well at primary to infant to secondary school as the data would have it.
But presented.
What would get you a vast majority of the men in that situation? Either dead, by the waysides, drunkens, in bodily. What would get them there? It looks like men come from the womb to the prisons and to the tomb. So when we're discussing real, what is it? Yes, the consciousness of a man, what would get him to not participate in society, not participate in institutions, turn his back on church, turn his back on meaningful living, turn his back on a contribution to his society, turn his back on a contribution to his country, turn his back on a contribution to just life itself, and go the path of death? What would cause that to happen? That's one of the questions I'm wrestling with, because we need to wrestle with that question before we find a solution.
We're talking about the problem.
We want to find practical, real life
What is
situations.
the reason for the problem? And I'm telling you, I believe, Kevin, it's a lack of true masculine representation for these boys. I feel like as the world has been going on and the eons have been passing, we've become a more feminized society, more so than we've ever been before. And because of that, the boys, the young men, they don't see value in institutions anymore. That's why they join the gangs. Because the gangs give them something to live for. It seems that way, which is death. And that's crazy. So it gets you thinking, why would a boy be attracted to a group of men? See, it's already a group of men. Why would he be attracted to a group of men? A certain level of testosterone, a certain level of hierarchy. Why is he attracted to that? Why is he attracted to being incentivized to doing things that seem risky versus just going in an office and sitting down at a computer typing all day? So it gets you thinking. The world has men. When we talk about the history of men have come from being seafarers. Men have come from being real adventurers,
Hunters.
it is embedded in our DNA that we are seeking discovery. Our whole life process, the process of a man is discovery. And when you take that away from a man and you put discovery into sitting down at a desk for 9 hours a day, this man becomes frustrated. And the young boys are becoming frustrated because that same feminization, which is not necessarily a problem where a hybridized system is considered, because I believe femininity, there is power in it,
Very much so.
in its own space. And so men need a more masculine space. And so you find the churches are no longer masculine, the schools are no longer masculine, the institutions are no longer masculine. You know, the boys maybe join cadets, it's still not. We need to give the boys, we need to give the young men purpose, Kevin. They lack in purpose, even in homes where there is a father and a mother. Because I would have concluded a few months ago that the nuclear family is the absolute best structure for any child. But if you have a nuclear family, the mother is more of a man than the father. what type of trajectory are you expecting of that young man who's going to witness this? You know, and so you find that the boys are seeking, indirectly or directly, right? He's seeking that level of masculinity somewhere, and it's unfortunate that you find that level of masculinity in the streets. You find it in the creeks and crevices of the crime of the underworld. That's where you find that level of masculinity nowadays, which is crazy and it's beyond me. So we need to think about, with that level of origin of man, where we've come from, how do we curtail this in our current era? Because it's not the same, Kevin. You don't go out there and hunt and bring back a rabbit and your
Sure.
Right now you need to have a job. There's a different structure and alignment of how a man is viewed and what a man is supposed to, support in his role. But at the end of the day, with it becoming so feminized, it becomes confusing. And so a lot of these men either just drop the ball because they become laissez-faire, they don't do anything, lethargic, a lack of value to our society, which I can tell you is the vast majority of men nowadays. And they're the risk takers, but they don't take good risks. They take poor risks. And I like to tell fellas, because you play basketball, right? A high percentage shot is a shot that's closer to the rim. You take a layup, there's a higher probability you score that basket. A lot of these boys want to shoot off the half court, Kevin.
They're free.
They want to shoot the free.
Out of the deep,
Kevin. And they don't have what it takes because there's no proper guidance.
Mentorship.
mentorship,
Yeah.
alignment with that, and that's where ideas for boys and men comes in.
Yeah. So you made a couple points while you were speaking. I'm saying like I started by saying you can read all the books you read, and you on the ground the experience is so much different. Because I read this book it's called I think I have to remember, it's by Warren Farrell,
Right.
and the Boys Crisis.
Right.
And in the book he's actually saying exactly what you're explaining. He's saying back then it was so easy for the male role and responsibility to be defined. It was go out, work, hunt, bring back the rabbits, and that's that. But because society has changed, and because we are living in a more inclusive society, and we're not hitting on the inclusive society, the roles and responsibilities for men has changed. So the man is in what Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning called, there's 2 books right now, Man's Search for Meaning, called existential crisis.
Oh, yes.
He don't know who he is. He don't know what he's supposed to do. He don't know what his responsibilities are.
Right.
He cannot get a feeling of fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in the roles that is given to him today.
Right.
So where do we ground that? How do we deal with that existential crisis? And I think that has a very a deep connection with what's happening in the broader sphere of our culture, where the birth rate is lower.
Right.
The health is an issue. So I think if you are hitting the man at the top, everything else at the bottom tends to crumble.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what it is. It is written biblically. If you want to destroy an order, you destroy the head. That's why the Pharaoh went behind all the boys when he was trying to kill Moses.
Right.
That's why the Pharaoh went behind all the boys when he wanted to get rid of Jesus.
Why?
If you want to destroy an order, if you want to imprison people, you have to first take out the strongest set of them.
That's
and the
right.
strongest of them all are, if you're talking about physical strength, mental strength, hunting powers, we must take into biological accounts. So we are facing an existential crisis, and we want to deal with that existential crisis, which is characterized by existential tirade, which is aggression, addiction, and depression. That's written by Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning. Anytime people do not have a meaning in life,
Right.
and meaning comes from responsibility and purpose.
Right.
Anytime a man doesn't have that, he is aggressive. He suffers with depression, and he suffers with addiction. Now, if you look around and you see a lot of substance abuse, seeing a lot of violence, a lot of crime, we can't say fairly, diagnose it, that we are going through with our men what you call an existential crisis. A definition of an existential crisis is that your existence is on the line.
That's it.
You are at a position to be extinct. And there's research that's showing men are really on the verge of extinction if you look at it.
Right.
You know the amount of men that's in prison? You know the amount of men that dying? You know the amount of men that not even participating in the consciousness of being a man? It's true they have a XY chromosome, but what does, and then we're going to get to that ideal. You can have the XY chromosome, but are you does the definition of a man fit you because of the XY chromosome? So that's what we are outlining, that the problem, there is a problem.
Right.
And the problem is we are facing an existential crisis. It's global.
Oh, yeah.
It's global. It's not only, but
Oh, yeah.
like you said, we don't want to keep watching what's happening in the global sphere and just sit at our home and feel comfortable and only point to what's happening in the global sphere. What can we do in our little spaces?
Yeah.
What can we do in our little organizations? What can we do in our church? What can we do in our family? What can we do in the little things that we do? And we're starting with Ideas for Boys and Men. And the mission for Ideas for Boys and Men is taking all that into account, which you understand, and we are moving quickly forward into how can we build. Our mission is building a strong nation, one son at a time. And when I was coming across with that, and I love my country. I love my country very much. I love Helen, and I tell people, like, when I see Helen, I love Helen, and I will do. And when I see our women, I see Helen as our women are embodied. Each and every one of them have a little piece of Helen. So you see in Helen, and St. Lucia is the only country that's named after a woman. So it's very special.
Absolutely.
So we see in our little Helens, the embodiment of our little Helens, our women. But how do we provide, protect? How do we take care of Helen as a man who take care of his wife? Helen is our wife at this point.
Absolutely.
And how do we take care of Helen?
Right.
How do we put things in place? Because even in Helen's anthem, Helen said, "Guard our sons from war and harm." Helen asked us to do that.
Right.
She, as the mother, said, "Guard her sons."
Right.
From war and harm, because probably Helen knew something that we didn't know. It's in her national anthem, in her song.
Yes.
She said, "Guard her sons from war and harm." So Ideas for Boys and Men will take on what Helen asked of us.
Right.
To guard her sons. We're not doing it for us.
Right.
To guard her sons from war and harm. And biblically it is said, as in the return of the king, he is going to bring the hearts of the sons back to the fathers, and the hearts of the fathers back to the sons. So based on our mission, what we're trying to do is to build a strong nation, one son at a time. Tell me what you think about that. Is that something that's practical? Is that something that's real? Is that are we chasing phantoms?
No, we're not. We're not, because at the end of the day, I like to tell people, being effective doesn't mean that you challenge the masses, Kevin, and then you have a whole bunch of sheep following you. Being effective is taking someone from point A to point B effectively, taking them from that level, from that lower point to a higher point. I like to call it consciousness diffusion. Diffusion is, of course, taking them from a lower point, to a higher point, to a semi-permeable. Ideas for Boys and Men is the semi-permeable membrane. We are the way through which. And I believe that once we continue with our mission, we will undeniably get results. And I feel like, Kevin, we have a cultural problem. I think that this doesn't only stem from a place. And I love the fact that you pay tribute to our national anthem. And that's why we need to go back. People might call you a conservative, Kevin. They might say, this guy is so sewn into his ways and into the old ways and stuff like that. But the truth is, when you say that national anthem, Kevin, you're supposed to believe it. It's just like saying a prayer. That's the level of, when you say you are St. Lucian and you say you're from this isle where we have the highest per capita level of, we have the highest amount of Nobel laureates per capita in the world. And people will say like, oh, people are always talking about that. Yeah, we have 2 out of 180,000 people. We bred 2 of these. We have a Julian Alfred now. We have a number 1 in the world. Olympics. We have what it takes here in culture to do this. But I feel that we've been consumed, Kevin, by westernized culture a little bit too much. You see, the point is, we come from a place of slavery, which is hard. And you see, when you don't know your origin, Kevin, it's hard for a father of today to tell his son where his principles lie, when his father didn't do that. When his father's father was told that by a white man. And I'm not saying this to be racist, to be prejudiced. I'm saying this is the truth. The generation that we are at, we are the great-great-grands of slaves, unfortunately. And because of that, a lot of the trauma, a lot of that has been dealt down to us in our DNA. It's a real thing. And so, in order for us to make real strides here, Kevin, we need to start to restructure the mental culture of these young boys. We need to start with doing things like what you just said. That's so beautiful, bro. Save our boys from war and harm. It's in our national, and I bet you a lot of people have never really realized that we're speaking to our sons. So, for me, Ideas for Boys and Men, we're here on a mission to revitalize the masculinity. Because you spoke about the existential crisis just now, and people are saying, what is this man talking about? Men are still there, they're alive, but they're just in jail, but they just, you're talking about the masculine essence, Kevin. That's what's going. That's what's almost dead, We're still going to have people walking around with penises. That's fine. Because guess what? Now there's transgenderism. So you can have a penis if you didn't have one. That's okay.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about having a paycheck.
Yeah.
We're talking about the masculine essence
Yeah.
that is being slowly dwindled out and it's being pushed out by a high level of feminism, you know, and a high level of I don't know. A lot of guys just don't know. So where Ideas for Boys and Men comes in is that we want you to know. We want to help you restructure your mental culture so you can be the man of the future, the man that is going to be the savior of tomorrow. And I'm telling you, not all superheroes wear capes. You see the nurses, the teachers all the time.
Yeah, great.
We need to be superheroes for our men, our boys. That's why we need mentorship, Kevin. It's undeniably the next step towards that process. We need to become more involved. The men who know what you and I know, we need to be more involved. Knowing is half the battle. It's half the battle, Kevin. We can, like you said, we can talk about this all day long because
a lot of books. We can
go in the phone right now and Google, what is it? But how do you make a stride to change that in your backyard? First, you know, before you start talking about, you know, loosely about things that you do not understand. You know? And so, I believe our aim is a virtuous one, Kevin. It's a necessary one. And it's one that I'm willing to take on for the rest of my life. That's why I started this subject.
Yeah. And it's amazing that we spoke. We had that conversation, and people can go back on YouTube and watch it. And you have been there until now. I mean, it's going to be close to a year now, and you on the journey. And one of the things that you said that I want to really specify on, because right now we have people defining what masculinity is, and I like the fact that you didn't ground it into too much into biology. You're a male. Because you have an XY chromosome, you are male, but sometimes nowadays the males do not even have the testosterone that is required to be a man back in the 1960s, and we have our men now have the testosterone of a 70-year-old man back in the 1960s. Testosterone is being depleted. So what it is when we talk about masculinity, because it's either what I'm seeing is either toxic masculinity or effeminacy. That's the two options we have to choose from. Either you are toxic masculine that you go into jail, you hate women, you don't like anything, you destroy society, and the total opposite of that, you are effeminate man. You cannot protect your family, you cannot provide for your family, you cannot talk, you cannot do anything, you are at the bottom, that's just who you are. There's two options. But I'm saying, but no, wait, there's a middle ground. There's a good shepherd. There's the one that can hold masculinity, care for his environment, care for his family, care for his society, but at the same time, he's not a weak, effeminate man. He doesn't behave like, he doesn't have feminine modes of thought, because men is structure, order, ambition, making sure things are safe, making sure things are created, that structure around his family, providing. That's what men are. Men are, that's what masculinity entails. So, to be able to take care, I'm getting a sense that people saying, because you're a man, you're not supposed to care about things. A man, and I was speaking to my wife recently about that. To me, when I was growing up, the old thing they say, give a man sex and his food and he good.
Like
that, that's it. Like, I said, like, what kind of instinct? You have
to tell you, break down the number.
Listen, that's all. Make sure you give him his sex and his food and let him watch sports. And
you know what's tough? A lot of men believe that. That's all. A lot of men believe that we've grown, and see, again, it's the mental culture, Kevin.
This is amazing.
We are worth nothing more than just a job and some vagina.
And that's,
and it's unfortunate. So now we've scaled beyond being discoverers, being adventurers, being thinkers, inventors, things that have the world where it is today. The real patriarchy they're talking about. The real patriarchy they're talking about is what has gotten the world there today. Men built churches, men built homes, men built this very society that we're now living.
And it's in protection. It was all in protection of the feminine. It's just all in the protection of the feminine.
Will disagree. And they were saying that this is why feminism is at its high peak point right now. Because there was no inclusion of women. And that's, they have a strong point. They do have a strong point there when it comes to that. But I'll tell you what, we're at the place in life. It's just like, it's the same way someone will, tell us someone who's talking about slavery today. It's like, buddy, we're in 2026. We all have the same level playing field. And we all do. As you could see, in most cases, women actually hold the lead roles in most jobs and institutions right now. Not just because of feminism, but because they've pushed the extra bar, put themselves there. You know, and again, it's because of the fact that men have lost track. We've lost vision. We've become just a man who needed sex and a job. That's what we've become. We've become just a man who you don't require much. Just give him a beer, you'll be alright. You just sign the drink, he'll have a good time. It's okay. Daddy don't need a birthday gift. Daddy don't need that, you know. And then because of that, it has adversely affected our level of emotional intelligence. So,
And going on emotions, what you're saying, are making a lot of sense. I'm saying if we go down the path of emotions, and I'm going to let you finish your point, and that's what I'm thinking about. A lot of us men, we moved by comfort. I'm not saying don't pay attention to your emotions, don't value your emotions, but we living in a world right now, men care so much about how they feel. They want to feel the sensitivity to that. I see and understand that our women now are even more stoic than our men.
oh yes.
Our men so crying about everything. I have to wake up early.
The ladies
that
call it the
job.
soft man era.
No, but
Really soft man
the
era.
ladies, because even when the
They're tired of-
mentors, even the mentors saying that there are no mentors anymore, there are ladytors. There's ladytors. Like you would
They're
call
tired of-
fellas to do something, and fellas like, I'm sick, I'm tired. I said, like, who am I talking to? I swear, I'm talking to a woman.
Yep.
Yeah, fine. You call a woman to do something and she's pushing forward.
Yes.
But the fellas are so based on emotions. Now the emotions, now we can say, okay, a man can sleep in his room 12 o'clock based on emotions, not doing anything in his emotions, in his feelings. But the other man that in his feelings can use his angry feelings to do negative things. Both of these men are being led by emotions. If a man led by reason, what is reason? Reason can translate to purpose. Reason is, and I always give that story. That story starts with my wife was giving birth to my first son.
Right.
I had such a wonderful experience because we were in the room. I was in the room as well for both of my sons. And I always give that story. And that's where I got emotional. I cried because I see my wife going through giving birth, and then every doctor that don't know me from anywhere. Some might say you're getting paid. That's so move that on the table. Just look at the room. Everybody have something doing, bro, and everybody care so much for the life of my wife and the life of my son. They don't know us from anywhere, and they had to put everything in a perfect condition for both the lives to be saved. Bro, that's a miracle, bro.
Yes.
The miracles people they're looking for, I had a broken leg and my leg grew. No. No, the miracle that people don't know you from anywhere, and they would focus and they would sacrifice the way they feel to make sure. And I remember applying that to myself. That's when I came here. When I was born, my mother gave birth to me young, 17. That's how everything was put in place for me. The hospitals that I wasn't there was put in place. The doctors, everything was put in place for me to get there, bro.
Yeah.
Everything was put in place. My mother wasn't working at the time, and she was provided for. Some might say God, but God used people. And I'm there up to what they like today, and I'm going to be on earth. I'm going to be in St. Lucia. I'm only going to think about what I want, what I feel, No. I must give back to the structures and systems that was put in place to get me there. Before I came, those things was put in place, and I'm going to come here as a young man and say only what I want. What I want is about me. It's about how I feel. It's about what I think. Bro, as a man, that's where the man come into. Put all that on the side. Look, What needs to be done?
Right, in your community.
What needs to be done?
In the nation around
In the nation, your
That's right.
home, your family, your community, what needs to be done?
Right.
A lot of men is I, me, what I want, what I feel, what I see, what I feel.
But
bro, forget about that.
I believe it's a lot of influence from social media. You see, that I thing, that didn't just happen. That happened because there's an agenda being pushed for us to believe that individuality is the only way. You know, it's duality. The world has come to a point, Kevin, where social media has become so effective. The mass media has become so effective, where we're all in a bubble, you know. As much as we're so connected, you know, we can just reach out to this girl over there in Thailand and reach out to this guy over there in Argentina. We're all in a bubble because we don't see the value of togetherness. And again, anthropocentrism. That's where we're at mentally. We believe we're the center of the universe, human beings. And so even within the sphere of the earth itself, we feel the same way. So you feel like you are the most important thing here, which is not an incorrect thought. So someone will say like, why should I not think that way? Why should I not think that I'm the most important thing? But you see, like you said a while ago, Kevin, for you to have been here to begin with, there would have had to be processes and people to put these processes into place.
The sacrifice.
True sacrifice. Not all superheroes wear capes. And so we feel that we're just here doing this. The world will not be possible with just you. You being here has no relevance without me being here, Kevin. That's why we're talking to each other right now. You understand? We're interacting. Interaction is probably the biggest evidence that we're supposed to be here together to have some value here. And the fact that we have the value that we're here, that is given to us initially, we must undeniably give it back. We have to. You didn't just come here. You understand? And then when you're here, it's not just you here. That's why we don't do litter. That's why we shouldn't do these kinds of things, because you're not just harming yourself when you do something screwed up. You know, it's just like even taking hard drugs. When you take hard drugs, people say, oh, drugs don't kill people, people kill people. And that might be true, because one has to make a choice, you know. But if you make a choice to take hard drugs, you're killing your family. You're killing your neighborhood. You're killing a little boy that was looking up to you. Now he's saying, you know what? Maybe I'm feeling depressed. You know, my life is screwed up right now. Let me take that angle, because Michael took that angle. And that's why we have to leave an example. That's why Jesus was there. That's why these great people were there, because example is required for us to know what to do. Otherwise, you're like a headless chicken.
Because that's the conversation of we're going deep into the conversation to the base of what the problem is, because morality now is subjective morality. Michael can say that's my truth. And that's what sickens me about the churches. Sickening. Now, they cannot even specify objective morality, what the Bible is talking about. And what you're talking about, what people do in there, it's my truth.
Yes.
My truth, I feel that's my truth, and that's my truth. I'm saying, no, that's not principle.
That's not principle.
You can say, you can fly, it's your truth. You think you can fly. I'll tell you, go on top of the roof and fly. Go and fly on top of the roof. Principle, you fall in, you're hurting yourself. And then when you fall, you hurt yourself. Philip JP have to find money to people to come and pick you up. Philip JP have to invest in our resources to send ambulance to pick you up, because you think your morality is for you alone. But our taxpayers' money, based on your morality, have to pay for your nonsense.
You understand?
So your subjective morality is at my expense, my taxpayers' expense. That's your subjective morality. Your morality is not subjective in any way you look at it. Morality is objective. There are social contracts that we have to agree with.
Absolutely.
And when you agree with them social contracts, you get to find out where, how are we moving this side? How are we moving it this side? It's not just about you. People tell me, it's my truth. I think I can do that. I think I can. And men not supposed to stand between the gap and say, hey. It's not your truth and my truth. There are truths that we cannot negotiate on. Number one, family. We cannot negotiate on. People can just do what they can with their family. And there's no way. Family is sacred to society. We have to keep certain secret because we're complaining about the birth rate, and everybody complaining about the birth rate. But why are we seeing a decline in birth rate? Since when we come with our liberal ideologies and our subjective moralities, my truth versus your truth, we're in an existential crisis as a country, as a people.
Right.
And that starts with the head. There is no head. Everybody running your truth, my truth. And I find that causes a disunity.
Right.
We must, the only way we can move together towards, and even going back to, I don't want to go too far, even there's problem with CARICOM. We're saying like, we as a people not unified in our mind. We have subjective morality. We are not unified in the little organizations we start in.
Yeah.
We're not even unified in the institutions that we hold in government, and we want to say we can unify as a region. You're not even unified as an individual. You must agree to aiming at something. So you have a mental aim, you have a physical aim. But the spiritual aim, we can, some persons can say negotiate and that, but we have to try to have our aim right there in the spirit. There's certain things we cannot not negotiate on. There's a non-negotiables, and everything is negotiating right now.
Yeah.
Subjective. My truth, your truth.
No.
Do what makes you feel good. Do what makes you.
I believe that two things can be at the same time. I believe that's possible. Because if you look at the situation in Iran right now, America and Iran, you know, a lot of the times, two things can be true because they're two different agendas. And because of that, I have my reason as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. You have your reason as to doing what you're doing. However, it boils down to what you talked about a while ago, which is principle, Kevin. What is the principle? What is the basis of the decision-making process? Not making the decision, but what is the basis of it? Now, if that is fluid and it's loose, then you have a problem. That's why we need to have some kind of an understanding as a people. And that's why I'm telling you, we need reintegration of mental culture. You and I could be looking at the same thing, Kevin, and be thinking two different things. Why is that so? There is beauty in difference. That's why the creator made it this way. If we were all thinking the same exact way, what a boring world it would be. But at the end of the day, like you said, they're non-negotiables. Non-negotiables. You don't kill people for nothing. You don't steal for nothing. And I mean, these things are in the Bible. For crying out loud. And I'm not heavily biblical. But I can tell you that just off of sheer, you know, consciousness, you know this. You know you should not hit your mother in the face. Why do you do that? You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, we've come to a point where the non-negotiables, because of science, have become so loose that we believe, and then belief is a very funny thing, because belief is never backed by fact all the time. You know? Belief most times is you just staying there and saying, you know what, my gut feeling tells me. Goes back to feeling again. See, but we don't understand. I was thinking about, before we started the podcast today, I was coming down, driving down, I was like, you know, just like the concept of the chicken and the egg. You know, what comes first, Kevin? Is it feeling or thought? Do your feelings ignite your thoughts? Or do your thoughts ignite your feelings? And the concept of the chicken and the egg is a funny one, but the truth is the egg comes first. So it must be an egg to have a chicken. You understand? Otherwise, we deal with magic that is beyond our comprehension. You understand? So, you know, we have to understand that our feelings are heavily guided by our thoughts. In order for us to change our feelings, we have to cultivate a proper mental culture, you know, and to do that, we have to rid ourselves of the individualistic thought process that the Western world has not bestowed upon us, but has thrusted down our throats without our knowing, Kevin. So now we're at this point where everybody wants to be an Instagram content creator. Everybody wants to be the it guy. She wants to be the it girl, but with no value or basis behind it. There's no content for the content creators. I was listening to a Cat Williams show, and he was saying everybody is an influencer, but no one is influential. And that's the thing. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be influential. I want to be impactful. And that's why we're saving one boy at a time. One boy at a time. We're not trying to save 10 boys at a time, or 15. And God be it if it happens, does, and that's great. That's what we're aiming for. But one at a time, you know, we get realistic. And people, I want you all to get realistic with the program. Get realistic with the fact that we're dealing with an existential crisis for real. that the young men are falling through the cracks, like Kevin always says. It rings in my head like my favorite song. That we see it every day, that we're at 23 homicides already in St. Lucia, and it's just April 14th. So we have a whole rest of the year to go, and we know there are more deaths coming. How do we take preventative measures? How do we start tackling the very youth? I was looking at this show, recent show, Bandy. Great show, Kevin. I don't know if you have Netflix. It just came out April 9th or so. The name of the show is Bandy. And it originated from Martinique, our sister Aya. Great show. Netflix, great job. However, Kevin, do you remember the times of Vybz Kartel, Movado, having the Gaza Dirty War? You remember how that infiltrated the minds of the youth in St. Lucia? Youths became girly and Gaza. I'm looking at this Bandy show, and I'm telling you, Kevin, parents need to be wary of what their children are looking at on TV. The fact that it's so relatable, Kevin, to our very society and culture brings me to the point where I know that there are some kids sitting down at their home watching Netflix that their parents do not have guidance on, because who has parental guide on TV in St. Lucia? Let's get real. Unless your parent is there and they see something happening and say, "Oh, we're watching it." The truth is, the children can watch what they want. I'm seeing Kevin, a 10-year-old boy, looking at Bandy and wanting to be the next Milord, wanting to be the next young 16-year-old boss who has struggle in his family, because it speaks to a story where this boy is in a family of 11 persons, right? 11 children. His mother dies, and he along the way becomes you could say a kingpin, right? At 16 years old. And I'm telling you, a lot of boys in St. Lucia are looking at that, and that's where they're taking, that's where they're taking the influence, Kevin. They're looking at Bandy and they're saying, you know what? I can lick a shot, I can go to Lava and get these drugs, I can do that. Now I'm telling you, my boy, if you're thinking about going to Lava and getting that drugs, the 15,000 euro that you put in your life up for, the 7-8 years of jail time that you're going to do for it, it's not worth it. It's incalculable. The amount of time that you waste incarcerated, how much you could have done in that time outside, being a free man. You understand? I do think the boys understand what a waste of a life it is to put all your eggs in that basket. You know? And I would hope, again, that's why I'm speaking on the media, Kevin, that parents are somewhat, you know, trying their best, because I know it's hard, because again, we're in this system. Parents have to work 9 hours. What time do they have to say, give me that device, what are you watching? Let's get real. I hope that parents are asking these children questions, that the schools are curtailing the type of conversations. We're not trying to be a non-democracy. People have the freedom to watch what they want.
No, not children.
Not children. But also with the proper mental culture. You know, so when I listen to hip-hop music, I do it for entertainment. I don't do it to feel like that person. And when I look at Bandy, I look at it for entertainment. And so I hope that the kids understand that there is a distinct difference between entertainment and reality. You know, they're Hollywooding out here nowadays. These boys are going to just, nowadays, a friend of mine told me, boys, it's like 2 murders now, it's double murders now. Before you know, it's 1 murder. Right now, it's by 2s. Before you know, it's by 3s. Before you know it, St. Lucia is experiencing mass shootings. That's things that we have never seen before. You know? And then what do we do at that point when it's become uncontrollable? You know, so we need to take preventative measures. We need to go into the schools. We need to create a place, Kevin, not for rehabilitation of boys, but for the refreshment of boys.
Preventative measures.
We need to understand that boys don't need to be saved, but men need to reunite. You can only save yourself. And in order for us to save the nation, Kevin, we as men need to unite. The men who are part of the different groups, the men who feel it in their soul, I can make a difference. If you're listening right now, contact us. Let's get together. Let's formulate some kind of a coalition. A strong point, right? That people will see and respect and understand. And we can give these boys a chance. Because as it stands, they don't have a chance. And we're all waiting on the government to make a move. Philip JP has his own family to look after. You know, he has the police force to look after and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that the government should not have intervention in these things. I'm saying that it takes every single solution
to participate. Agreed. And one of the things that we touched on, I believe one of the solutions to the problem would be going back to the homes.
Right.
And that's one of the things I'm saying. Sometimes you speak to some men, some males, and you're letting them know that, hey, this is happening, and then they will tell you, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that that's too much. I don't need to know that that's too much to handle. But I'm saying, I don't need to know that's happening. You know, there are certain influential people, like you said, online, that's in your child's phone. You're telling me all you need to do, and I tend to speak on that because we're a Christian nation. All I need to do is just pray and my child will be protected. Yes, that's fine. I respect that. I respect that.
Yeah.
Some don't even care what the child is looking at. But you know, you might be talking against a point, and then your child is so well indoctrinated based on what you talking against, but you don't even know the influential ideologies that are gripped in the using your child as a host.
As a host.
And you think, hey, I'm talking to my child, I'm saying, hey, be a good boy, go to school on time, and and I listen to my child watching something, and I don't know any of what this person is saying. And this person is there brainwashing my child in my house. So in my house, I think the doors lock.
Yes, Kevin.
The doors lock, the children in at 8, and the doors lock. The doors not lock. The digital device is on.
Oh.
That's open to the world.
Oh, yes.
You lock the doors from the community and you open them to the world on the device. And there are a lot more influential and dangerous people on the device than you can ever imagine out there in your society. Trust me.
Okay.
So we need to go back to a form of proper structure and order in your home. Fathers, and that's one of the things that we want to do in the fatherhood program, the digital intelligence as fathers, how you put structure in your child's device.
That's right.
How to know what your child is looking at, when your child is looking at, what is privacy and what is not privacy.
Right.
Because I have 2 boys coming up there and I'm trying to figure out, I already see the future. People will be asking me for privacy. So I'm trying to find I'm trying to figure out
investment.
How will I define privacy?
You understand?
Because anybody can use the word, but what does that mean?
All right.
What does that mean when you say privacy? Privacy, does that mean that you can have a phone and you can have it and do anything you want with it without my knowledge?
The phone that you buy.
The phone and without my knowledge and me understanding how impactful that device is. You're asking me to let you navigate this device with your own naiveness? What does that even mean? What do you mean when you say privacy? So we'll have to hash that out when they get there.
Boy.
I'm already having a conversation years before they get there, so I know what they're coming with. Because daddy, I need my privacy.
Yeah.
How you mean? What does that mean that you need your privacy from your phone?
His headed. He will seem awkward if he doesn't get the privacy. But then how does that help your household and his future? So, we need to think about
that's where you talk about a correlation of. So if we have multiple fathers doing it,
you understand?
He will not be living he'll be saying like, oh yeah, my name is John. Yeah, my daddy have the daddy lock. Yeah, my daddy have the daddy. So
you get what I'm going at. And that's why
that's normal. So we know that's what it is. That's our community. We know that's how things are operating. His father doing it, my father doing it, John's father doing it, everybody's father doing it. So that's what it is. So if everybody open and he's closed, he'll feel like he's in prison. So I'm preparing long for him.
Right. We're on that mission. Because I'm telling you that is going to come about.
Yeah.
You have to wonder. I see it's very hard for parents.
Young members messaging him. He's seeing nice things and
his pictures of parents I was at that. My brother, I'm telling you, it's tough.
Yeah.
And if your child doesn't have the mental fortitude of his own to, not allow things simply like peer pressure to get the best of him, he's doomed, he's doomed. And even as a good parent, that's why they say you come from a good home.
We always had that.
Always, because and you wonder like, so how he came from a good home did that happen? But the truth is, Kevin, the dogma outside of the home is so much more effective than the dogma inside the home. You channeling your child for up to 7 years. You don't see in public schooling, or they start interacting with other beings. You have to be wary because you don't know what, you might be instilling values into your child, but other parents are not.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, we need to come to a common ground on this thing.
You see what we're doing there? Men talking about social issues and addressing childhood and family and all of that. We need more of that.
We need more of that.
We need to bring more men in the conversation.
Oh, yes.
Based on his subjective, based on ideation. We need to go and sit down with, because when we met with the Archbishop, we agreed that we will be coming to have a conversation with him.
Oh, yes.
We need to sit down to discuss those
We need to
topics.
talk
We
about
need
these
to
topics, yeah.
bring men to the table to say, hey, guys, you care. There's nothing wrong with you expressing the fact that you care about your family, care about your
There's
society.
nothing soft about that.
There's nothing soft about that. And there's nothing toxic about you caring and implementing structures to protect your home. Because that's what they call, that's what they tell us. So, and it goes back to definition. People will say toxic masculinity and women afraid to hear, you know, men afraid to hear people call them toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
But what the toxic masculinity they're talking about? They're not even talking about the criminal behaviors. Sandra, don't wear that short skirt. It's too short to go outside.
We're talking about reasonable insecurities, I would like to call it.
Toxic masculinity. You have your daughter, you're telling your daughter that skirt is too short to go outside.
Yeah.
Daddy, you're
She can't be
toxic.
herself. He can't be
He's
herself.
toxic.
You know,
he's part of the patriarchy control. All and they're educated. They are educated in those terminologies.
Oh, yes.
The liberal thing, the liberal education system teaching them
Absolutely.
that anything your father tell you to do is toxic.
Yeah.
Your father don't understand. Your father don't know. Your father want to control.
Oh.
No.
How many children's cartoons, you know, you watch animated cartoons, how many children's cartoons you see the father get respect? it's a thing now that the father is disrespected, you know. It's a thing. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
daddy, whatever.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Many shows on Netflix making the man look like a fool.
I'm telling you, that's why I'm going back to this media thing, because that's what we have no grip on. The westernized media has taken the control of our people, our culture, Kevin. Again, you and I myself coming from a place where, you know, you cannot talk to Miss Martha a certain way. You better pass and tell her good morning, Miss Martha.
Yeah.
You better tell her that.
Yeah.
If she tell you hold that for her, you better hold it too. And then, you know what I'm saying? But right now, we are at a point where that's no longer a thing, you know. Right now, Miss Martha, who's Miss Martha to talk to you like that? A child. You know, you saw that video of this guy having a situation, like altercation with the security guard.
Yeah.
You know, you look at something like that, and that speaks to the level that most of these young children are at, you know. Yeah, he's a delinquent, he's a brave one. But I'm telling you, most of them, that's their mentality.
And the comment section I got annoyed with.
Oh, man.
The comment section was very annoying.
man.
You know, majority of the comment.
Condoning this thing.
The majority of
condoning it,
the
Kevin.
comment section was
That's the problem.
against the man that was trying to impose a level of structure on this young
You
boy.
understand what I'm telling you?
Listen, he approached it the wrong way. He shouldn't talk to him. He should let him do it. He was too this, he was too that. I'm saying, yeah, the fusion, but at the same time, this young, you can see the attitude of this young man.
The young man was over the top.
Yeah,
It was
so
unnecessary.
So
for
both
him
of
to
them
use that.
escalate. Yeah, both of them escalated it to a certain point. But the criticism was so much that the security should not even done his job.
Right.
That's what it sounded like to me.
It's like, just leave him alone, but it's a tester.
Yeah.
It's a tester. But guys, we know it's a tester, but how, we all come from a Caribbean household.
Wow.
You know that if you're murdered by Sunny D this Friday, you don't go in that fridge 5, 6, 7 times and take Sunny D because they have Sunny D there.
That's the structure.
That's the structure.
That's the structure.
You know that mommy can have some juice, please. That you have juice for lunch. And then you might have juice for dinner if she wants to give it to you.
And that's a loss.
And that's a lost, man. So you tell me this boy has, because it says test on it, and you see him go back to the words, because it says test on it, he has the ability to test it as many times as he'd like. But that's not the principle behind the tester.
No structure.
The principle behind the tester is that we try it out just to get a feel of the aroma, to see if you would like to purchase it. This boy has money to purchase the people perfume. Who knows? Who's to say? But he's clearly being defiant, you know? And people are going and agreeing with the fact that the man shouldn't have, like, you know, he kind of went wrong for people to I'll be honest with you. You don't know who is who.
Both escalated. But the comment section,
if we're talking about the position we were as boys, we wouldn't even got into that point. You know, we wouldn't have even, the moment you see a security coming, you probably run.
Yeah. And going on that point, I was speaking to somebody last night. I was saying,
there's no respect for authority.
Authority. And what does the father represent in the home?
Authority.
The father is the first. The father is the first authority figure. And the children know that, bro. I have 2 boys. Let me tell you. When I watch my boys a lot. I watch them a lot. Because I pay attention to, because I want to see the progression. And I read that from Piaget. I love Piaget, constructivist theory. I love that. I love all of that. But I'm watching in practice, in practicality, reality now, not theory, reality. So I'm seeing when my boys when they get hurt or they fall or something wrong with them, they run and make mommy, that comfort, that nurture. And when they want to eat something, They want it, nobody teach them that. You know when they want to play, you know when they want to play, you know when they want to go to the park, you know that they build, that's built into them, that daddy is play, culture, and mommy is nature and nurture. They came with that. They just know it. They know it. So now you will confuse a child where daddy is playing nature and nurture and mommy is playing culture and order. So the child saying, but to me that instinctually no. The child watching, but that's strange. Instinctually no, that's not how I respond to it. But you're giving me that and now the child is
discombobulated,
lost his way. So we can and we've been artists. We can go on for a little while. So you can give us a few closing statements and
absolutely. I just like to let you guys know, tap into Ideas for Boys and Men. It's Ideas SLU on Facebook, and check out my podcast. It's Subjective on YouTube. Kevin as well. Ideation. We're here to change the scope of things. That's what we're here to do. We're starting here in a very basic way, in a very simple way, coming to you digitally, because this is what is accepted right now. But we're going to be on the ground as well. We've been to the Modern Correctional Facility. We have plans on working with BPC, and we have plans on creating a coalition, Kevin, that the boys of St. Lucia, the young men, the young leaders of St. Lucia, that the women can have something to look forward to. That the women, right now, the women, Kevin, we could go on and on about this, but the women do not have faith in us anymore. And we need to reignite that faith in the women. We need to reignite that faith in the country, in the nation, so that we can have a better future. All right. That's what it is.
Well, that's it. Let's continue the journey from strength to strength, building a strong nation, one son at a time.
Thank you.
Yeah.